Welcome back. In this lecture, we are going to see the theory of post-colonial state. We have seen theories of state, Marxist theory of state, liberal theory of state, and in this lecture, we are going to see post-colonial theory of state or theory of post-colonial state. What is what is post-colonial mean? What does this word mean? Post-colonial means the states which were colonies once and and have legacy of poverty and drain of wealth. States which were colonies first and have legacies of poverty and drain of wealth. Right? What was the context? What was the context behind post-colonial theory? Right? The need of post-colonial theory we also have to understand. Need of post-colonial theory. What is the need? The need was that Western theories of state or European theories of state, European theories of state were not enough to explain conditions of post-colonial states, right? Because because the evolution of state happened in different ways in Europe and in rest of the world, right? So the ineptness of European theories to explain post-colonial state led to formation of post-colonial theory. What? Why? Because European theories were Eurocentric. Marxist theory explains capitalist society. Liberal theory explains capitalist society. Right? State in state in Eastern countries was not capitalist as such. Situations were completely different. That is why there arose a need for post-colonial, for theory of post-colonial state. Right? So, in pursuit of explaining post-colonial state, there emerged two strands. The first strand was Western or non-Marxist strand. The second one will be, of course, Marxist analysis. So there are three types of non-Marxist or Western strands of post-colonial theory of state. Right? The the need or the reason for Western or non-Marxist theories as given by these scholars is of development. We are giving this theory so that Eastern states will be able to develop. This is what the reason as given by the scholars of these theories. But the real reason was neo-imperialism. right? Neo-imperialism. Neo-imperialism, right? Now there were three types of theories which came out of Western or non-Marxist perspective. The first theory was of political development. Political development. Political development. Political development theory talks language of evolution of political system in direction of direction of West, means direction of political direction of political system towards liberal democracy, towards liberal democracy. This approach is basically evolution of political system in east in direction of west, meaning towards direction of democracy. These theories assume that evolution of political system should happen towards democracy, right? For scholars of political development, democracy is a precondition is a precondition for all other development, all other development. Democracy is a precondition for all other development. How? If democracy is there, more diversity will be there. If more diversity is there, if more diversity is there, people can raise their voices. Societies are open. Societies are open, and a feedback is better, right? Why democracy is precondition for development according to political modern development scholars? Because when the system is democracy, such societies are open societies. Open societies will frame better policies. Open societies will frame better policies because open societies give feedback to its government, right? This is the idea of political development theory of post-colonial state. What is political development theory? Basically, post-colonial societies, post-colonial state should move in direction of West, should move in direction of liberal democracies. Why? Because open societies can give better policies, can give better feedback. This theory of political development was developed by this scholar, this philosopher, this thinker, Lucian Pai. Lucian Pai. This is the theory of Lucian Pai. Lucian Pai says that in essence what Lucian Pai says is that democracy is precondition for for development. Democracy is precondition for development. This is the idea of political development theory of post-colonial state. Political development theory, right? Lucian Pai gives three parameters of political development. First parameter is equality. Equality. Second parameter is capacity. Equality among citizens. Capacity of state to govern, and differentiation. What does differentiation mean? If you remember Plato and his theory of justice, there is this tenet that we find in his theory. There is this principle that we find in his theory of justice, which is functional specialization. Differentiation is basically functional specialization, right? Differentiation is basically one entity, one institutions, one person will do only one function, right? Functional specialization. Differentiation is basically functional specialization, right? What is the issue with this state? What will be the criticism of this state? That the first thing that it assumes that it is it assumes Western model to be universal. This is the first criticism. And the second criticism is that liberal democracy is seen as end goal of political evolution. Right? These two are criticism of it. You can also write hegemony of West, right? Neo-imperialism. You can also write cultural relativism. We are going to understand cultural relativism in rights, but we can also write this as well. So, right, we are going to understand that. But for now, it is enough to understand that what political development theory is. It is it is basically saying that democracy is precondition for development. And there are three parameters of political development: equality, capacity, and differentiation. Right? And what are the criticism of political development theory? These two criticism that it assumes Western model to be universal, and it assumes political evolution should happen in direction of liberal democracies. So this was political development. Next, we are going to understand second non-Marxist Western perspective, which is political modernization. Theory of political modernization. Political modernization. Non-Marxist Western theory of colonial state, the political modernization theory. This theory was given by these two scholars, Kenneth Organski and Samuel P. Huntington. Right? If you remember, end of ideology thesis. What does end of ideology thesis say? Right? It says that ideology has lost relevance. What is important today is development. Which kind of development? Economic development. This is the central idea behind political modernization. Right? This is the central idea behind political modernization as given by Kenneth Organski and Samuel P. Huntington. right? What is the core idea behind it? Political modernization scholars say that there is no need to evolve towards liberal democracies. There is no need to evolve toward liberal democracies. But what is the need is that economic modernization, right? With economic modernization, what will happen with economic modernization? What will happen is that industrialization will happen, right? If you have studied society, then you must know that with industrialization, urbanization also happen. Urbanization also happen, right? With urbanization, what happens is that individualism, individualism becomes the core thing, right? People become rational. They leave their primordial identities. People become rational, right? Secularism becomes the core of political administration or core of political system, right? And when you add individualism, when you add industrialization, urbanization, individualism, rationality, and secularism, what will you get? You will get democracy, right? This is the idea behind political modernization, which which assumes which assumes that if you if you modernize yourself economically, if you modernize yourself economically, automatically you will become democratic. You will become democratic. Why? Because with economic modernization, industrialization happen. With industrialization, urbanization happen. With urbanization, individualism become the core idea of the society. Then rationality takes place, and then secularism happen. When you add all those things, you effectively get democracy. But you are not trying to bring democracy. You have just did one thing, which is economic modernization, right? So political modernization theory is not universalist. Why it is not universalist? Because it talks about economy as more important factor, and it ignores it ignores democracy. It does not impose democracy. It tries to bring democracy through economic route, right? As political development model says that evolution of post-colonial state should should happen towards democracy. Political modernization scholars say that if you get economic modernization, political modernization in terms of democracy will automatically happen, right? So a very similar idea, but different in the sense that how they are trying to bring democracy against this idea that eco- economic moderation can bring democracy. Economic modernization can bring democracy. Samuel P. Huntington gave criticism in his concept of political decay. Political decay, right? What is political decay? What is political decay? You see, he just wanted to say that he just wanted to say that even if you even if you modernize yourself modernize yourself economically, there is no there is no guarantee that it will lead to it will lead to uh, it will lead to democracy. Why? Because situations in developing societies are very complex, right? What is political decay? Political decay is just saying that in developing countries, developing countries is also post-colonial countries. In developing countries, post-colonial countries, economic modernization does not necessarily mean political development, that is democracy. That is democracy. This is his concept of political development, right? This is his criticism of political modernization, the concept of political decay, right? The concept of political decay. Going ahead, going ahead, we would also see we would also see the theories of F.W. Riggs and Gunnar Myrdal and his concept of soft state, right? These are also theories of post-colonial states. Before that, we have to complete with the topic. We have to be completed with the non-Marxist and Western perspective. We have finished. We are finished with political development and political modernization. Let's begin with political culture model. Political culture model of post-colonial states. We have seen in political development whereby Lucian Pai says that evolution of state in post-colonial countries should happen in direction of West, should happen in direction of democracy. The other theory which we saw was political modernization. Political modernization theory says that political development or democracy should not be imposed. You should do economic modernization. With economic modernization, democracy will appear on its own. Against this, that democracy will appear on its own, Samuel P. Huntington gave his theory or gave his concept of political decay, whereby he says that economic modernization does not always translate to democracy. Economic modernization does not always translate to democracy. You see examples of China, right? China has had a lot of economic modernization, but has that turned China into democracy? Not really, right? So this was basically the concept of political decay. Then we are going to see political culture model or approach. This political culture model or approach was given by two scholars, Gabriel Almond and Sydney Verba. Almond and Verba in their book Civic Culture. In their book Civic Culture. In their book Civic Culture. What is culture? What is culture? Culture is culture is what constitutes culture. Culture are traditions. Culture constitutes norms. Culture also has customs, religion, right? Caste, class, everything is culture. All these things are culture. Patriarchy is also a culture, right? This culture, this culture can be used as a variable to study countries. Variable to study countries, right? And our lens, our lens will be political. So we are going to categorize countries as per their political culture, right? Almond and Verba has categorized countries as per their political culture in their book Civic Culture. That is basically the political culture model, political culture theory of post-colonial states, right? What is political culture, right? What is political culture? What is culture? Culture we have seen. Culture is basically traditions, norms, customs. Traditions, norms, and customs with respect to politics is political culture. As simple as that, right? As simple as that. No need to overanalyze it. Tradition, norms, and customs as related to politics are is political culture, right? The theory, the theory as given by Alman and Verba was influenced by Weber, Weber and his system of categorization of ideal types, right? Ideal types is system of categorization as given by Max Weber and David Easton and his input and output model of state, right? Input output model of state of David Easton, systems approach of David Easton we are going to see in comparative politics. Right now it is enough to understand that Easton and Weber influenced Almond and Verba, right? They applied these two theories, ideal types, that is system of categorization of Weber, and input output model of Easton, and gave four models four models of political culture. First model is first model is parochial political culture. Parochial political culture. What does parochial political culture mean? Right? Parochial is the word parochial basically mean that you are limited in in your kinship, in your area. You are very limited, right? You are very limited and you are not associated with outside world. You are very parochial. you are limited to your caste, you are limited to your village, you are limited to your state, then you will be parochial. What is parochial political culture? Right? Parochial political culture will be that people who are outside political system, people people who are outside political system, right? For example, for example, people from Andaman, right? Sentinelese people on Sentinel Island, they don't have any association with Indian state. They don't know Indian state exist, right? These people are these people are uh, these people belong to parochial political culture where they are not associated with a political system, which means that suppose this is political system, they don't give any output and they don't expect any output. They don't give any input, neither they expect any output. They are very limited and they are not associated with political system. The second political culture will be subject political culture, right? Subject political culture. Subject political culture, in subject political culture, this type of political culture is supply driven. This type of political system is supply driven. What does this mean? What does this mean? That people don't have any demand. They are the situation is like monarch and its subjects, whatever whatever concessions, whatever welfare that a monarch does, that a king does, is accepted to its citizens, right? So so subject political culture is supply driven, not demand driven. What does this mean? Right? Again, I will make a small system. This is political system, right? On input side, there is no demand. There is there is there is no input side and there is no feeding on input side. People are people are happy in accepting whatever state is giving them. So whatever political system is giving as output, thus people in subject political culture are fine with that, right? Are fine with that. People don't have their own demands, right? In this culture, in this culture, output is important. Output is important. Input is not, right? So a monarch, a king, will fit in this definition. Whatever monarch will give as output should be accepted to his citizens, and citizens don't have any inputs as such. This is subject political culture. The next type of political culture, as given by Almond and Verba, is participant political culture. Participant political culture. What is participant political culture? That both supply and demand drive this system. Both supply and demand become important, right? both supply and demand become important. To make the system, political system, here is input, here is output, right? People are giving a lot of inputs and state is giving a lot of output. So very active system. And in participant political culture, there is active participation of people. But what is the issue with what is the issue with active participation is that it can lead to mobocracy. It can lead to mobocracy. Active participation of people can lead to mobocracy. If too many people are involved in functioning of state, that is also wrong. It can lead to mobocracy. It is usually a good thing, but it can lead to mobocracy. In this system, both input and output are important. The fourth type of system is civic political culture. Civic political culture. What is civic political culture? It is basically this political system is basically combination of all three, right? Subject, parochial, and participant. It is combination of all three. That it is not too too much input driven, not neither too much output driven, right? It is simply in equilibrium, and these civic political culture, which is combination of all three, brings democratic stability. Okay, so this was non-Western, non-Marxist Western perspective on theory of post-colonial state. Right? Two more concepts are remaining in this in this theory. The first concept is prismatic societies. Concept of prismatic societies. Right? What is concept of prismatic societies? Right? What is prism? What is prism? Right? F.W. Riggs, who is scholar of prismatic societies, thinks in this direction. This is tribal society. There is no functional specialization. Tribal society, in tribal society, state has fused functions. Nobody knows, there is no functional specialization. There can be a situation where legislation, adjudication, and execution will happen by the same person. Will happen by the same person, right? In development of state, we see from tribal societies there is development towards functional specialization, right? Every function has a particular person doing it. Multiple functions are not with single person, right? Now the societies which are in transition, right? Which are in transition. I have made this part red. Societies in which are in between, which don't have fused function totally or neither have functional specialization as well. Such societies are prismatic societies. Means societies are in political transition. there is not a situation of fused function, there is not the situation of functional specialization as well. Society is somewhere in between. This is basically the concept of prismatic societies, right? I will explain one more time. Tribal societies have fused functions that one person can do all of the functions, that one person can perform function of legislation, execution and adjudication at once. But in fully developed societies, you see functional specialization, whereby you will see three different functions are performed by different people. But in prismatic societies, the situation is somewhere in between of tribal societies with fused function and developed societies with functional specialization, right? Situation is somewhere in between, right? We are going to see it. We are going to see it actually in comparative politics. Till I will explain. Till I will explain in a short way, right? In a short way, I can explain. No worries. So, prismatic societies, societies which are in political transition, not fully fused, neither having functional specialization, right? What are the features? What are the features of prismatic societies? The first feature is formalism. The first feature is formalism, right? Formalism, right? Things are done formally. Things are done formally. What does this mean? What does this mean? This means that rules are modern, right? Practice still is tradition, right? I always give example of child marriages in Rajasthan. What law says about what law says about child marriages, that they are illegal, but that law is formal. Practice is still of child marriage, right? So formalism is the first function or the first feature. The second feature is polycommunism. Polycommunalism. What does polycommunalism mean, right? Communalism basically mean multiple communities multiple communities form a nation, but they experience trust deficit between them. Example, but experience trust deficit. Example is of India, Hindu Muslim. Hindu Muslim disunity, right? We can cite scholars like Dilip Hiru and his analysis of partition, right? India is is a nation which has multiple communities within it, and there is a sense of trust deficit between such communities, right? Uh, we can cite scholars like Dilip Hiru. Then, then there is concept of polynormativism, right? Norms. norms which will apply to you, right? So polynormatism basically mean, suppose there is this IAS and there is a citizen, right? These two are going by a car. The IAS, the IAS scratches his car on citizen's car. IAS is drunk. The norms, the rules which will be applied on this IAS and on this citizen are different. Even if this citizen goes in police station and says that this person who happens to be IAS has scratched my car, nobody will hear me. FIR won't even be registered. Right? This was the situation. Situation was way better. Right now, situation has gotten much better. I feel with all everything being digitalized and all that. Right? So polynormativism. Your social status determine which norms are applied to you. Right? Then another feature is functional overlapping. Right? One entity has multiple functions. Right? So government in India is a cabinet government. So parliament is there, and some parliamentarians form government. So you can be MP as well as minister at the same time. Right? You have to be MP and minister, that is there. You have to be an MP for a minister for to become a minister, that is there. So you have two different functions on your hand. This is functional overlapping. The fifth feature is attainment norms. Attainment norms are ascriptive than descriptive. This means that your blood will decide how much you can achieve in life, not your merit. Your merit does not decide how much you can achieve in your life, but your blood. Right? Attainment norms are ascriptive than descriptive. Ascriptive means by blood, descriptive means by merit. How much can you achieve in your life is by your blood, not your merit. The sixth feature is heterogeneity, right? Multiple type of people will exist in this country. Then the next the next feature is administrative system will be of type Sala model, right? This Sala model basically mean nepotism, right? Your father is an MP, you can also become MP. Your father is a minister, you will you will be in position of power in administration, right? Your father is minister, you can become MP, right? This is what Sala model mean. Sala model basically mean nepotism, right? And economic system is Bazaar canteen model. What does this mean? This means that the rates which is applied in bazaar and which is applied to canteen are different. Again, the rates which has been applied to you and applied to someone with social status are two different rates. Right? Don't worry, we are going to study this concept of prismatic societies again in comparative politics. The next concept is soft state. If you have not understood prismatic societies, don't worry, we are going to see it again in comparative politics, and that in that place this makes sense as well, right? If it did not make sense now, there it will definitely will. So soft state, this concept of Gunnar Medal in his book Asian Drama. What does soft state mean? What does soft state mean? He wants to say that he wants to say in context of India, he wants to say that India will fail in poverty elevation because it is a soft state. This is the basically the context of him writing his theory. India will fail in poverty elevation because it is a soft state, right? Now, what is a soft state? Soft state is basically two things, right? Soft state is a state in which laws are implemented poorly, right? And the second thing is law laws, as laws are not important, persecution is, right? You make the best of law, right? You make the best of law, you for give best of the orders. If you lack capacity to, if you lack capacity to implement those things, then there is no point of that order, of that law, right? Covenant without sword, as Bentham said, or as opposite. Covenant without swords are nothing but words. So, so that is the idea of soft state. Poor implementation of law, uncertainty of persecution, right? This is the idea of soft state. Then he analyzed why India is a soft state, right? He says that the first reason he says is corruption. Second reason he says is colonial legacy. Colonial legacy of powerful bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is powerful, that is why India is a soft state. The third reason he gives is Indian culture of disobeying law. Right? India has got its independence by disobeying law. Right? Gandhi Gandhi was a big big person. Gandhi was a person who did not obey law in NCM, in CDM. You see, he did not obey law. That is why India is a soft state, because there is corruption, there is strong bureaucracy due to colonial legacy, and people like Gandhi, on back of which we got independence by obeying law, disobeying law. The uh, fourth reason he says that right? In Indian culture, everyone respects you if you break law, right? Right? You committed murder, right? Indian culture, everyone respects you if you break law. I will give example of our honorable parliamentarians. The criminalization of politics is a big issue in India. You see the rate in which criminal cases are increasing on political leaders. It is harrowing, right? Indian people respect people who break law. Indian people just not respect people who break law. They elect them as MPs, right? So this was non-modernist Western perspective, non-Marxist Western perspective on colonial theory of state, post-colonial theory of state, whereby we saw political development, political modernization, political culture, the concept of prismatic societies, and soft state as well. I hope this was helpful. From the next lecture, I'll start with Marxist approach of post-colonial state, and I will try to explain it as easily as possible. I hope this helped. I will see you in the next lecture. Thank you so much. Bye bye.